It's City Life on Wednesday. Linda Bound is way over on the other side, and between us is Fruem Kembang, who's going to talk to us about a lot of things, I hope, but especially about what's going on in Cameroon. And sadly, bad things are going on, and I don't think many people are aware of it. Fru, what's the latest word?
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Cliff. And good morning, John. And good morning, Lowell. I want to start by thanking City Life for helping to spread the word about the genocide that's currently going on in Cameroon, that the world is not paying attention. Since our last meeting here, it has really become a full-blown war, and we have some horrible images that we really want the world to see. The situation has really gotten to a point where, you know, almost around 72 villages have been burnt. People are burnt alive, just killed indiscriminately. It's more or less like they have a license to kill without being to kill at will. So as I speak, I have lost so many relatives, family members. On the 20th of May, which is the day that Cameroon supposedly celebrate a national day, in the English side of Cameroon, particularly in Bamenda, the government rallied youths. They were around drinking. For some unknown reason, it ended up that girls and boys, 40 of them were just shot, killed. I mean, it was really a carnage. And as we speak like this, every day people are really dying. And we are calling on the international community to do something. I mean, someone will not really will ask, why is it that it's just so quiet and the world, people are not seeing the images that's going on in Cameroon? It's very, very terrible. But the most important thing now is that has happened since our last meeting was that the U.S. ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Peter Berlin, actually came out and condemned the government, spoke very forcefully about the human rights abuse of the military and how the military arrested a southern Cameroonian, I would say southern Cameroonian defense force, because they are fighting, we are fighting to defend ourselves. We didn't declare the war, and call on the government to conduct an investigation and make sure that they show the world that they abide by the laws and also respect human dignity. Unfortunately, the spokesman of the president came out and insulted President Trump, insulted President Clinton, and called America a criminal state, and cited so many things that I was just too angry that he said that wherever America goes, they does a lot of bad things. And the U.S. ambassador actually said that America has provided support to Cameroon to fight Boko Haram, and that by American laws, we don't stand by any army that kills its people. So with this, they use the support that we give the government to fight Boko Haram instead to turn the guns on the Cameroonian, which is really, 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 really bad.
Now, Fru, you got a bunch of videos you gave me this morning. And the first one says the ambassador. Then I got the Cameroon president. Which one do you want me to play first?
Okay, you can just play the clip that says the U.S. ambassador when he visited the president and asked the president to do an honorable thing and do what Mandela did. and relinquish power, because he's been there for how many years? 56 years now.
Takes a second to come up, but I hope the audio works.
With him after a letter of credence, very long discussion we had with him. And we have the opportunity to have the content of the discussion with the President.
Yes, well, thank you very much. First off, I presented the letter of congratulations from President Trump for the 20th of May coming up to your National Day, and I shared the letter with the President. We discussed a variety of things of cooperation between our two countries and areas of interest. I expressed appreciation that the Minister Delegate of Defense on May 11th repeated his assertion that any equipment that we provide, the planes that we provided on May 11th, the two Cessnas, would only be used in the far north. They would not be used anywhere else in the country or for purposes other than fighting Boko Haram and the Islamic State. So human rights is extremely important to us. And as you know, the United States law says that we are unable to work with units, military units, that against whom they have credible allegations of human rights violations. So that's the one thing. Then I also congratulated him on the fact that, again, the Minister Delegate for Defense launched this investigation into the torture of a captured prisoner, Ambazonian commander, and his assertion that the people who were guilty of this would be punished. I think that's extremely important to show to the people of Cameroon and to the world that Cameroon takes human rights seriously, that you can have resolution of conflict without human rights violations. I will say that, you know, there's violence on both sides. The government has committed summary executions. They are guilty of detaining people and not allowing them access to lawyers, to their families, even to visits from the Red Cross. They have been guilty of burning villages, of looting, and of general harassment of the population. On the side of the secessionists, the separatists, we've seen horrible beheadings, kidnappings of government officials, and burning of schools. We want to stress that the United States condemns violence on both sides. We condemn violence, and we want to call for people to listen to each other. Right now, in Cameroon, there's a sort of a dialogue of the deaf. People are stating their positions, the government is stating its position, and the separatists and the people of the Northwest and Southwest who don't support the government are stating their positions, but they're not listening to each other. So I asked the President to use his position as leader of the country to try to find another solution that would allow both sides to listen to each other.
Yeah, so right now you see, we just watched the U.S. Ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Peter Bilorin, and he is talking about the cooperation and the help that the U.S. gives Cameroon to fight Boko Haram, and also he admonishes the government not to use that help to kill its own citizens. But unfortunately, that's exactly what the government is doing. And in the next video, you will watch exactly the abuse, what the ambassador himself saw, and call on the government to launch an investigation to bring those who are responsible for abusing this Southern Cameroon military person to show the world that they respect human rights. Can you bring it up? Let me see, John. No, okay, yes, that's it. He's speaking in French. So translated in English.
Selon vous, que peut faire le président Paul Biya face à tout ce qui a l'air de menace de la part du président Donald Trump? Est-ce qu'il va faire la sourde oreille? Que va-t-il faire face à toutes ces pressions extérieures selon vous, président Bandagani?
Ce n'est pas M. Trump qui dirige le Cameroun. Le président du Cameroun, c'est le président Biya qui gère son mandat, qui finit en octobre. Et aucune loi au Cameroun n'interdit au président Biya de se représenter. Parce que suffit-il qu'un prétendu ambassadeur des États-Unis vienne faire sa fanfaronnade comme il a fait devant au palais présidentiel au Cameroun? Il y a quoi? L'ambassadeur américain, c'est qui? Qui est l'ambassadeur américain? C'est qui ce voyou? C'est qui? C'est qui? Le Cameroun l'a arrêté parce qu'un fainéant comme ça a parlé. Un idiot qui ne connaît même pas la différence entre la diplomatie et le réglementaire de la diplomatie. C'est qui l'ambassadeur américain? C'est qui? Le débat n'est pas à ce niveau. Ça. Le débat, c'est le débat au niveau des Camerounais. Est-ce que nous qu'avons-nous compris des relations internationales? Maintenant, on va descendre. Chaque fois que les États-Unis ont fait comme ça, dans tous les pays du monde, ne parlons même pas de la guerre froide en Amérique latine. Ils vont dire, ok, c'était la guerre froide, tous les coups étaient permis, les Russes faisaient là-bas, nous on faisait ici. Depuis la fin de la guerre froide, chaque fois que ce que vous appelez les États-Unis, cette criminocratie, c'est un État criminel. Chaque fois que ce criminel...
That's the president's spokesman speaking like that.
C'est toi le pays, Vanessa. La Somalie.
And that's the president with the ambassador on the other side.
La Somalie est où? Bill Richardson est allé voir Mobutu, comme ce monsieur que vous appelez ambassadeur est allé voir le président Biya l'autre jour. Il lui a dit, si tu n'es pas prendre du pouvoir, ton cadavre va tomber. Va te traiter dans tout. Je vous dis, c'est ça.
You said that they would send the ambassador home in a coffin.
Dans tout Kinshasa.
Okay, look at exactly what the ambassador saw and spoke about. That's the Cameroon army. The audio. That's a South Cameroonian person that's arrested. See what the army is doing to him.
Tu vas crier, idiot. Général, allez, dans la le général. Attention.
And that is just the tip of the iceberg. They will just come to a village. Okay, John, it's finished.
So, I looked up while the video was going, the ambassador, Peter Barlerin. He is not some political appointee out of Hollywood. He's been a member of the U.S. Foreign Service since 1989, so that's 29 years. He's a professional diplomat, and he's doing a professional job over in Cameroon. Unfortunately, it's a bad situation. Do we know what the UN is doing, or has the UN just sort of sitting on its hands?
I believe.
Well, with what His Excellency the U.S. Ambassador has come out and condemned the regime, the Australians, the European nations, they are lining up now.
Finally.
And if you see the president's spokesperson ranting like that, that shows that the heat is on them right now. Because right now, as we stand, some people used to talk about dialogue and whatever. I think at this particular moment, we, from the southern Cameroon, we have really determined that we are going to die so that we can free our nation. You see, everybody, even I myself included, because my relatives, my friends, all have been killed mercilessly. Almost around 100 villages have been burnt. If you see the graphic images I think I sent some
Yeah.
of those graphic images. If you look at those people killed, they don't have guns. They are civilians. Schools are burnt. Almost 2 years now. No education. No schools are open in the English side, and I really wonder what a generation we are. The government is the current government in place is really thinking for the southern Cameroonians. For 2 years now, the president and on the French side of the country, everything is normal. So it has reached a point where we, all the southern Cameroonians, we really want to an independent state. And it's worth reminding that we were an independent state to come and join with the French Cameroon. They actually destroyed the union, the federal union that was created, and changed the name of the country from the Federal Republic of Cameroon, with 2 stars representing Southern Cameroon and French Cameroon, and renamed the Cameroon Republic of Cameroon. That was the name of the French Cameroon. So logically, you would see that the French Cameroon is the one who actually broke the treaty. So at this moment, Southern Cameroonians are asking the world and saying that the world should really take this seriously and not let what happened in Rwanda not happening in Southern Cameroon, even though it's going on now without the international communities noticing.
But you're saying the international community is beginning to notice?
Yes. They are beginning, they are just beginning, but the amount, people are dying.
Yeah.
And the government is actually speeding up the process to eliminate and neutralize any form of opposition that is going on.
So the problem for the U.S. government is, what do you do? I mean, we're engaged now in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, the Philippines, and of course we have a lot of military interests focused on North Korea. So, and we have special forces, special operations forces in Western Africa trying to track down Boko Haram and other Islamic State groups. So are the people in southern Cameroon hoping that there'll be an intervention by the United Nations or the United States?
Well, the question is this. That's more or less, it has proven that it's a rogue state. If the spokesperson of the president comes on the air and calls the United States a criminal state, insult our presidents, President Trump, Clinton, and our former ambassador Bill Richardson, and also say that they are going to teach our current ambassador, His Excellency Peter Bilorin, a lesson like the one that happened in Libya. That's extreme arrogance. And the U.S. is sending them money and also sending them equipment with technical support so that they can fight Boko Haram. They get that money and then they get all that support and thumb their nose at the U.S. That is, it just shows what a lawless state that it has been. And if they can openly challenge the U.S., and then you should see how the Southern Cameroonians are doing when the lights are turned off. Massive graves have been discovered in many parts of Cameroon, and you have thousands of Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, are in jail just because they spoke up, and massive arrest is going on.
Bro, I got to interrupt you 1 second, okay? What I want people to do is realize that we're going to show you some pictures of people who were murdered by the Cameroon government in May. They're very gross pictures. And so if you're sensitive to these kind of things, you might want to change the channel. And if you get any kiddos in the room, you might want to change. You should change the channel. This is not recommended for people to look at, but I think it's necessary for some people to see, to actually see. Fru's talking the truth here. They're killing. Can you imagine walking around your neighborhood and seeing pictures of your neighbors murdered by the local government? And who do you? So if there's a murder on your street, you walk outside and you find 3 or 4 people murdered on the sidewalk, and you call the cops and they don't come. They don't care. That's the country that Cameroon's living in. The government's killing these people. So, Fru, do you want to explain these pictures? Or, so, again, now's the time to change the channel because you don't want to see these pictures.
It's very graphic.
So, you want to talk about that now, Fru?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, John. You see, these are not army. These are regular people going around with their things. Then the government will come in an area like this and surround it and assassinate them, cold blood. Look at all the villages. You don't see anyone in camouflage dress or with guns. All of them are just in shock, seeing what is happening. What is their crime? Their only crime is that they are Southern Cameroonians. They are Ambazonian. Is it wrong to be a Southern Cameroonian? And I will attest to the fact that, you know, these were 2 independent countries. And the French Cameroon has lived under a dictatorship for 56 years. And this current guy, Mr. Biya, is the president who was there in he has been in government in 1960, since 1960. So, but if the English Cameroon as we are, thank you, John. I mean, when I look at those pictures, chills run through my spine, and the calls that I get every day is that this person has died, this relative has died, this friend has died. John, it is just tough. The world should come to our help.
And the government doesn't, the government's doing this. It's not that they don't care, the government's deliberately killing these people.
What the government is doing is that this generation, the youths, because most of those who are killed, John, it will be sad to understand that these are university graduates. Because they are educated, they don't have any jobs. And what the government has systematically done is they have destroyed all economic infrastructure in the English Cameroon so that they can actually assimilate and overtake us. Because of lack of no employment, because of lack of nothing to do, and because of the knowledge that we were an independent state, and how can this be happening to us? And the fact that 70% of the GDP, the national gross product of Cameroon, comes from the English-speaking Cameroon. These kids that you watch them go on the street to ask for basic rights, the government is killing them. Why? Because the government knows that if they eradicate this generation, which is very educated, the next generation will be the illiterates, and they can give them guns to go around now and continue their dirty work, which is really atrocious.
So, the United Nations is not doing anything?
So far, since His Excellency the U.S. Ambassador came out and spoke strongly condemning the government, and with all these images going out, it is actually awakening the consciousness of people of the world, and even the UN. Most world leaders now are beginning to speak up. Even the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, His Excellency Nikki Haley, also spoke at the United Nations condemning this. So there is...
But this, all due respect for it, we've been talking about this for over a year. Talk is cheap. What are they actually doing? You have the president of the Cameroon picking on the United States, calling us names. Words are not going to work here. The UN needs to send some people in here and straighten this out.
Well, like...
or do you expect the United States to send in some helicopters had sent in some troops to straighten this, because Cameroon's a sovereign nation. They've legalized killing some people there, and it's got to stop. But how do you make it stop? That's where I'm puzzled. How do we make this stop? Cliff, what do you think?
It's going to take more than a couple of helicopters. We're talking about having to put thousands of troops on the ground. And it also means we have to build a consensus. And in the United Nations, that means we have to get Russia and China, France and England to agree that we have to do something. Plus, we have to get the support of other countries like France and Germany. And then, once you get the support, then you have to set up a military structure. The normal way in Africa is to get the African Union to send in their own troops. The U.S. would fund it. It's the typical way these things happen. But troops from elsewhere in Africa would be sent in to help restore peace. And it'll probably take 10,000 troops.
A bit of a political genocide that's happening here.
Yeah,
yes.
Another very important thing to do is we are not actually calling the U.S. to go there and invade Cameroon. We are actually calling like what happened in most of these countries. These leaders, all their investment are in this country. You have to touch them where it hurts them most. They should start by actually freezing their accounts, because that money, the money is used to kill its own people instead of developing. And also the U.S. stands is the unchallenged power that just a phone call or a statement will make them shaking, you see. So the president, all these ministers, and or the one who came out there arrogantly insulting the U.S. and calling our former president thieves and calling this country a criminal state, they have accounts here. It is easy to track these fellows down. Yeah? With the U.S. government doesn't really have to go there and invade Cameroon.
Why hasn't the ambassador? Why haven't they done that?
Well, I think I would not say why. You know, these things take time. You have to push it to a certain limit.
It's been 2 years.
That's exactly. And I would also say that.
How much time do you have? It sounds like you're not going to have too much more time. Yeah. There's no one going to be left.
But the question we have to ask then is, what does Nikki Songa say? What does
Guterres of the UN?
Who's the senator there? Ed Markey. What does Ed Markey
Elizabeth
say?
Warren.
What about Elizabeth Warren?
What does she say? Did this come up last Saturday out in Worcester at the Democratic Convention? What are these three people saying? Because the president needs support in Congress to do some of this stuff.
Oh, they won't support him.
Well, and then you already know that Congress has a bill that, like the esteemed professor who visited here, who was arrested.
They can't get out of their own way. Congress can't get out of their own way.
No, what I'm trying to say is the U.S. has, the Southern Cameroonian and Ambazonia, they have an interim government. You remember most of them were arrested in Nigeria. We have an interim government here, an acting interim government, which is actually leading the struggle. And then the acting interim president is Dr. Samuel Sako. He's based in Washington. And these are contacts that the U.S. can deal with this organization and these various leaders to be able to, so that they can guide the U.S. as to what they can do. Because it's not like the Southern Cameroon is a vacuum. We have an organized leadership that is actually leading the movement.
But why haven't they?
I think a lot of movement has been going on. If you see Congress, and then the senators, even most organizations here in the United States, they are speaking up and urging their Congress people to do something. It's because the interim government, headed by Dr. Samuel Sako, who is based in Washington, they have been doing a lot of politicking behind the scene. And in Cameroon, they listen to what these leaders are saying. So with the leadership of Dr. Sako and Mr. Milton Taka, they are the people that the international community should talk to. At least they have a body in place, a representative body in place that speaks for the Ambazonia and the Southern Cameroonians. Because as I'm here talking, someone may think that there is no leadership in place.
No, I think there's leadership, but I don't know why they're not. I don't understand why they're not being more proactive in getting the finances stopped or whatever. I mean, if we're still giving money and they're killing the people, why does that continue to happen? And why?
Part of it is I don't think that we, the citizenry, the voters, are making this a front burner issue. So I've resolved, listening to this, that I will send an email to Nikki and to Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey asking them what they're doing. Now I expect to get back boilerplate, but still,
if anything,
it will cause a little uptick in their interest in what's going on. And if you send the same thing, you know, you living up in New Hampshire, well, almost New Hampshire.
They haven't annexed us yet.
She's the Tingsboro person. She's a Tingsboro sponsor.
So anyway,
don't pick on Linda. We're in Tingsboro every single day.
Linda, if you send something off to even one of those three, and if some people out there in viewer land do the same thing, that will get the attention of our delegation down in Washington. And maybe they'll be able to overcome the
well, the person you ought to go after, that you ought to reach out to, is Elizabeth Warren. She's the one that's on the block.
You got to send the pictures. You got to send the pictures.
Yeah. And I think Cliff touched the core point of this. If I, from my personal point of view, John, you were in Bermuda, and you called me from Bermuda that someone watched the program in Colorado and was very touched and was willing to see how he can support. So not only in Massachusetts, but we learn, America educates the whole world that politics starts from the grassroots, from the people upward. And then if anyone, anywhere in this country or around the world, if they can pick up the phone or write to their elected leaders, when the elected leaders start hearing from the constituency, that is when it will do a lot of impact. And again, I still say that the Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, we have a leadership in place, and that leadership is under the directed by Dr. Sako and Mr. Milton Taka. So these are the people who the international community can reach out to and get how they can deal with them. I, as an individual, I don't have that power, but this power is entrusted into the hands of this leadership. And I would tell you, the international community, if they are serious, they know how to contact the Southern Cameroon leadership, because their information is out there for everyone.
Help me understand, you live in Lowell, right? Yes. You're a U.S. citizen. Yes. How many people from Cameroon have migrated to Lowell? How many fellow Cameroon Americans are there in Lowell? Are you the only one?
Oh no, John. We are. I mean, we are a very good number of us. You see, yeah. We have one of the oldest African cultural, one of the oldest African non-profit organization called the Cameroonians of Lowell Association. We've been participating and actively involved in Lowell, and we call Lowell our home. And we try not only to be beneficiaries, but we are involved in the economic and social, cultural, political fabric of the city. We also try to be benefactors. So since 1990, we have really been involved in the activities of Lowell and considering Lowell our home. And that is why I give credit to the people of Lowell, and even the leadership in Lowell really stands beside the Southern Cameroonians. And worldwide, Lowell has played a very important role in bringing the crisis in Cameroon to the world stage. Even BBC cited Lowell for actually passing a resolution condemning the first city in the world condemning the atrocities when no one was paying attention. That's almost over a year ago. So the Cameroonian community here in Lowell is really big.
Okay, so it's not just you by yourself. There's a bunch.
Yes.
And there's COLA, Cameroonians of Lowell Association.
Yeah, Cameroonians of Lowell Association, www.camola.org.
Okay. So we have a mission, we have a task. When the show is over, we have to send emails out to our delegation, Nikki Songas, Elizabeth Warren, and Ed Markey, saying, what the heck are we doing and what's the next step? Putting the onus on them to make sure we understand, put the onus on them to make sure we understand what's going on and how they're contributing to put the end to this. Because as these kinds of things go, I think aside from the Afghanistan-Iraq Syria situation, Cameroon is next up in people being killed mindlessly by governments. Just a terrible situation. By the way, you were collecting things to send to Cameroon here a couple of months ago. How's that going?
Oh, it's been very successful. We have sent a container to Nigeria where the refugees are. That's another sad page in this saga, that we have almost 170,000 Cameroonians who have fled their homes, and some of them are languishing in the bush. Pregnant women dying in the bush without any support, some in Nigeria and scattered all over West Africa. Well, if you see those images, those are just the tip of the iceberg. Just imagine what has been going on for 2 years now, the carnage. People are not really in their homes, even while they are in the bushes. The government sends the military in a helicopter to be killing them in the bush. So we don't know how many are dead in the bush. So it is really horrible.
So they've fled to Nigeria, but that's not a stable place either. When I was young, there was a, what was it, the Biafran War?
Biafra War.
Yeah, and that finally came to an end, but now there are conflicts in northern Nigeria between the herdsmen and the farmers, and Boko Haram is in there, kidnapping young girls and taking them off. I mean, Nigeria's got its own series of problems.
But at least they are able to open, well, that is a state, but the people are the same. When once the locals, they see the refugees, they look like them, they feel their pain, and then they take them in. A very important thing which I would like to underscore, Cliff and Linda and John, is that the international community and the U.S. in particular, if we want to get to these people, you touch them where their pocket is. Most of all these ministers, the president, they have a lot of investment in this country. I think sanctions and actually sorting all these ministers who are arrogantly insulting the United States of America and calling this country a criminal state, to the point that they stumped their nose and insult the president, the former president, and the former ambassador to the year, and even saying that our current ambassador, who is doing such a wonderful job in Cameroon, and saying that there is peace in that bay in West Africa, they said that they will send him home in a coffin. That's extreme arrogance, you know. I really think that all this, that spokesman of the president, he's saying there, if you look, he has accounts.
Well, is the
money
approach,
here in this country.
All right, then is the approach when we send those emails to our delegation to ask for that, to ask for sanctions?
Yes, for sanctions, and also to track this, to track these individuals who are in the government perpetuating this evil to continue. Because when we start calling on them personally, those ministers who are actually encouraging this genocide on their people, these are supposed to be the people, the representatives of the people. But when you turn your own people and call them terrorists and declare war on them when they don't even have ammunition to fight, all they are fighting, when you see the Southern Cameroonians, the Ambazonians on TV, you see them carrying leaves.
Well, what about the residents of French-speaking Cameroon? How do they feel towards this government? Are they abusive to their own as well?
Well, Linda, what I learned is that this current government, if you look in any country, the patriots who fought for independence, they become the leader and they value the independence because they really fought for it. Yeah. In our country here, President Washington was our first president.
Yeah.
In Zimbabwe, like him or not, Robert Mugabe was the first president.
Yeah.
In South Africa, our venerated leader, Nelson Mandela, became the president, right?
Yeah.
In Cameroon, in the 60s, sad to say, those in the French Cameroon, those who fought for independence, who wanted independence, are not those who are ruling. Those who are ruling now are the people who said that, no, Cameroon is not ripe for independence. Let France continue to rule Cameroon. And this current president was there in 1957. Those who were the patriots,
so why
they were killed. All of them were killed. So now you have a regime that has been ruling Cameroon who killed the true patriots. And they are the ones who have destroyed the history of Cameroon. Because just imagine, if you get up in the morning and tell your child that your president killed the patriots of this country, would that president like? So they changed the history of the country and ruled the French Cameroon by intimidating, by assassinating. Millions have been killed, so they cannot stand up.
Even in French-speaking Cameroon. So it's not just the English-speaking Cameroon.
No, what I'm saying is that is how they managed to control the mentality of the French-speaking Cameroon. Before the Union, the English-speaking Cameroons, those who fought for independence, they became prime minister. You have Prime Minister Ndele because they had multi-party system. You had Prime Minister John Foncha. These were people who fought for the independence of Southern Cameroon. So when we were coming together to join with French Cameroon, the Southern Cameroon Ambazonia was a moral state whose leaders fought for independence and respect human dignity. Then they joined whose leaders had killed their patriots, and they did not want that history to be revealed, because if that history is revealed, the country would rise up and say, you sitting there are the ones who killed our patriots. Even this current president, President Biya, he got his first job from his predecessor, Amadou Ahidjo. Guess what happened? He exiled him in 1984, and he died in Senegal. And he has never mentioned his name. So now with that history, he has killed every tribe in Cameroon that stands up to him. So because we, the Ambazonian, come from the British system of governance, that you have to question your leaders. You have to demonstrate on the street if things are not going on right. You have to unite and
That's
dialogue.
not working.
It is not working now, but they are resorting to bloodshed and trying to kill us, to silence us, because we are standing up for who we are. And now gradually, with this sensitization, what we are doing, we are also educating the French Cameroonians that, you know what, this dictatorship in place, this killing has been going on for 56 years. You people have paid the ultimate price. It's about time now to clean the house and chase them off. So they are beginning now to support the Southern Cameroonians.
Okay, well, that's encouraging.
Let's talk about sanctions for a minute, because there's sanctions the way we are sanctioning North Korea, where we're embargoing oil against the whole country and coal against the whole country, which results in pain for all the people. And then there's a way we're doing sanctions with Russia, where we're sanctioning individual companies and individual investors to make it painful for individuals. It sounds to me like you're advocating we use the approach we use with Russia and pick out certain people and sanction them, freeze their assets so that their money that they've hidden overseas in case they have to leave Cameroon, that money is not available to them. Is that it? You're not asking for us to have sanctions against the whole country, just individuals?
No, just these individuals. This money hidden in world banks, this is the country's money. These are thieves. If you look, there are no streets in Cameroon. There's no infrastructure. There are no schools. As you have seen the images, there is nothing, no electricity, nothing. But you have these individuals. Some of them have hospitals in Germany, hospitals, villas in Europe. The president's daughter was living here in California. She was paying $21,000 a month for rent. That is Cameroon's money. And if we target all these ministers and hit them where it hurts them most, Cameroon is almost broke because Cameroon is borrowing money. So, this cannot continue. If we do selective targeting and sanctioning them, and like what I saw in Iraq, you saw how they made these cards, play cards with all the pictures of all those generals.
Yes.
If we can spot all these ministers, we know them. That's another way to encourage so that they identify them. They can make all their pictures available to the whole world so that they track their movements. Because as what is going on in Cameroon, they are killing the Southern Cameroonians, they are looting the money and taking it outside of Cameroon. So if we can track this individual and actually put a sanction on their assets, then you will see that the situation in Cameroon will really start turning. And also, I would like also to use this opportunity to call on the Southern Cameroonian leaders in the diaspora. It's good that we unite, because if we unite, the world will listen more to us. Because what is not happening, what is sad is the fact that the Southern Cameroonian leaders are speaking from different perspectives, and some of them go at each other, which is not really good for the struggle.
No, it's not. Is the British government doing anything to give support?
I think the whole world is waking up with the U.S. ambassador coming out and speaking forcefully. And you could see the effect of what the U.S. ambassador's speech made. If you saw the president's spokesperson goes angrily and insults the U.S., he is playing with domestic audience. He doesn't know that they have stuck their hands in the mouth of a lion. The U.S. is a sleeping lion. We are so generous. But when you abuse that generosity and take it as a sign of weakness, that becomes your funeral.
So I think that we ought to help explain the spokesman's insults to our ambassador to Cameroon because he mentioned Libya and what happened. The U.S. ambassador, who was a career civil servant, a foreign service officer, not some political appointee, but a guy who was a graduate of the National War College, was not just killed, but he was tortured in that compound, and then he was killed. And he was tortured in an ugly way. And so we're not just saying, we're going to kill you. They're saying, we're going to make your life miserable. We're going to torture you, make you suffer, and then we're going to kill you. It's an ugly, ugly thing that the presidential spokesman over in Cameroon was saying. I'm very upset about it. It's not the way you deal with diplomatic personnel. Diplomatic personnel are supposed to have immunity, and they are supposed to be protected by the host nation.
Doesn't sound like he's being protected.
No.
Not at all. And the thing is, when once the president's spokesperson comes out and insult and say such things against the ambassador, you are indirectly authorizing the thugs to do whatever they can do.
We didn't in Benghazi. We did not step up. And are we going to, in fact, step up to protect this ambassador?
In fact, that is hearing from what the presidential...
Well, I mean, I would think that the government should be on alert of that. I mean, that's to threaten like that, to actually verbalize that that's possible or on their minds that they could possibly do that. Are they capable of doing that?
Well, Linda, I cannot say they are capable of doing that or not. When you see those images, those images can tell you what can happen.
So what I guess my concern now is what precautions are our government taking? Is our government taking to protect our ambassador?
And it also goes to say that
we can't afford another ambassador.
That those who are watching this program, if they can send letters to the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon that that what they have watched is terrible, that this is unacceptable, and that our ambassador is doing a wonderful job in Cameroon, just representing us and also reaching out and trying to find a peaceful way out of this. That's why he met with the president of the country and said, do the right thing like what Nelson Mandela did. In return, just like in Rogue Nations, went on the air and tried to incite.
He threatened him.
He threatened him. Instead threatening him. When we see His Excellency Paul Billowing there, does he really look like someone who's threatening somebody?
But shouldn't that go viral? I mean,
it is. That's why it's gone viral. But we are.
So I would hope that there's some reaction in Washington, not just in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Well, there isn't much you can do if the nation, host nation, decides that it's going to take down the embassy. Look what happened in Tehran, Iran. There was no way to defend the embassy against what was going on. But there's a handful of Marines, and there's some civilian
okay, John, you are playing that game. That's good. But the thing is, we have an a Cameroonian embassy here in Washington. It should start by people channeling their frustration to that embassy.
For the way I'm taking this is, this guy here, he's the president of Cameroon.
No, that's the spokesperson.
He's spokesperson.
Yes.
So we'll see.
That's the president of Cameroon by the side with the ambassador on the other.
This is the president here?
Yes, yes.
And
when the ambassador went to the Unity Palace and talked to him and also advised him that you've been in power for over 50 years. It's good that you do the honorable thing and prepare the country for your successor and moving forward. Then this guy went on the air and is ranting and calling the U.S. a criminal state.
So
he
doesn't put this in the ambassador's face, he has a spokesman say this.
Yes.
Okay. So do you think the ambassador's health is in jeopardy here?
Well, I cannot say I think. I'm listening to words mean a lot. Words can spill fire.
Yeah, okay, but still the question gets back, do you think we should send some Marines in to protect the embassy, the U.S. embassy?
Well, I said personally, that is not a call that I can do, but I think that another best way is to go after their investments. The individuals who are actually funding this government, all their assets are in this country. You see, he called the President Clinton a thief.
In the frame we're looking at right now, okay? Here we have the president sitting down with the ambassador.
Yes.
And then we have the president's spokesman chastising this whole issue, calling former president, I mean, President Clinton hasn't been president for a long time. I don't think, was he the president in this century? Probably he was. But at any rate, yes. I mean, the president, talking about president just doesn't make any sense. But this guy, he says, he seems to be telling the U.S. ambassador one story, and yet publicly, is this guy on Cameroon TV?
That's Cameroon TV. It's being interviewed after the meeting with the president. After the ambassador met with the president and had a wonderful conversation with the president, asking the president to do the right thing and prepare the nation and prepare himself for an honorable retirement.
Well, I guess this is saying that he isn't going to.
Oh, that's exactly. That's Bill Richardson, who was
U.S. ambassador.
U.S. ambassador. And
John, you say send in the Marines to protect the embassy, but it'd take a lot of Marines, and then you have to support them.
What's it going to take to stop this, Cliff?
Well, you have the Cliff said you have the African Union. You have Nigeria.
I'm going to go and let Freddie in and put you guys back on the camera.
Yeah, but the standard is the African Union sends a peacekeeping force, and
well, Cliff, are they on, or are they seeing this? Is this just sort of for show, or is it something that should be taken seriously?
This should be taken seriously.
Okay, then why isn't the African Union reacting, or are they?
I don't know.
Well, another thing that we have to understand is that the Western power has a lot of influence over these Africans. France, in particular, who is behind the French Cameroon. If everything is quiet at the international stage, it's simply because we have the French Cameroon has a powerful godfather, who is France, protecting its interests. And that's the reason why I said that it is very, very easy to go after these ministers whose investment assets are in this country. The banks, I mean, it's easy to know. Once you start freezing their assets, it becomes wonderful. But again, I like to thank Cliff, Linda. I mean, you see, most of the southern Cameroonians in Cameroon and around the world, they are very, very happy because you don't really know how you have brought their misery, their pain to the world stage. So your contribution into bringing this to the world is very, very immense, and I could not, I can only thank you for them, because they are not here to thank you.
No.
And let me tell you that those that have been killed, you have really risen their spirits for the world to see what they are.
So, Fru, are you sticking around till 8 o'clock, or are you getting picked up?
Well, I'm getting picked up, and I think our next guest is around, so...
Well, I want to thank you for coming in, helping us to understand this thing. And I think that all of us need to send some emails out to the congressional delegation, Nikki Songas, Elizabeth Warren, Ed Markey. And then the next time we see you, which I assume will be within a month or so, we can talk about what kind of responses we got from our representatives down in Washington.
Thank you very much. Again, people should reach out to the Cameroon embassy in Washington and actually call them to explain why the representative is insulting our country. Linda, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Okay.